In the 11th grade, I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube. It wasn't exactly something that gained me any cool points, but I saw it as an interesting challenge. Once I got the cube, it was immediately scrambled, and I spent a couple days trying to fix the mess that I made, to no avail. I eventually just went to the internet and spent the next couple weeks learning the algorithms that were needed to get to a solution. I kind of got the hang of it in like a week, and after a month or two, I could finish it in sub 40 seconds. Anyone who spent the time to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube knows that this isn't really anything that impressive. But after learning to do something that most people saw as impossible for them to achieve, I started thinking about what it really means to learn something. I hadn't actually understood anything conceptually. Like, I didn't get what was happening when I performed those lightning fast permutations. But to the leagues of people that I dumbfounded by getting this little piece of plastic to an organized state in 20 seconds, I was some sort of genius. I watched this video a couple weeks later featuring Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a renowned astrophysicist, planetary scientist, author, and entertainer, and he was talking about his experience with Rubik's Cubes. He opened by saying that his fastest time was 76 seconds, which I kind of got a big head about, you know? I was like, look at me, I'm better than one of the smartest minds in existence right now. But then he explained that he never actually looked at a manual. He got to the solution by messing with it long enough that he actually understood how it worked. This blew my mind, and although to an outside observer what I could do looked more impressive, I knew that there was something deeper than just surface level memorization that Tyson gained from his experience that I did not. I've recently been reading this book, Range, by David Epstein, and one of the concepts he talks about is kind environments versus wicked environments. A kind environment is one in which there's a clear, articulated way to do something, and if the required steps are followed, one can come to a solution pretty much every time. By contrast, a wicked environment is one in which there isn't really a set way to solve the problem at hand, so much more creative and innovative thinking is necessary to prevail. Learning to solve a Rubik's Cube is pretty much the definition of a kind environment. Although there are parts of the process that rely on intuition, the majority of the time you're just looking for patterns that you've seen before and applying the necessary steps. So after a while, unless your goal is to become the fastest cuber in the world, it gets pretty boring. I don't think that people like Tyson had the same experience though. It seems like, without the scripts that I had to lean on, this experience would be much more akin to a wicked environment. There wouldn't be a set method of reaching a conclusion. There would be much more room to explore and come to a creative solution to the problem. That wouldn't be the case for someone that immediately took the easy route like myself. In such a constrained paradigm like solving the Rubik's Cube, I think the distinction between creatives and those who cling to procedures is pretty abstract. So I started trying to think about this difference with relation to my current set of skills. Which things do I have a thorough understanding of how to perform, and which things do I just understand procedurally? One of the first activities that came to mind was conversation. I love talking to people, and I feel like I've recently become confident enough that I can hold a decent conversation with pretty much anyone. But I find that many of my conversations end up sounding the same. Not necessarily because the people that I talk to aren't interesting, but because I, along with most people, rely on certain questions or patterns of conversation that are tried and true and help us avoid that awkward silence. Something I've noticed though is that the most engaging conversations I have are those in which we get past those normal topics and are speaking at the edge of what we do and don't know. There's a lot more uncertainty in conversations like this, and they take a lot more energy, but they're way more rewarding. Similar to Tyson, when you become comfortable grappling with the unknown, situations that are typically boring become wildly engaging. Let's not give scripts a bad rap though. They're obviously incredibly important. Without the ability to internalize patterns of behavior, we would never surpass the state of being an amateur at anything. Being able to automate actions that you repeat pretty often is such a useful tool. Like, instead of having to consciously think about how to take a step every time you want to get somewhere, you just run walk.exe and your brain does the rest. Our brains are essentially just biological computers, and although this ability to automate tasks is pretty important, our intrinsic aversion to change makes us cling to what is known and fear what is unknown. I think artists are the best at straying from their scripts. The very definition of their career is to not abide by what is normal. Do you ever wonder why the most famous and interesting artists are those that failed to learn their craft in a conventional manner? Elton John, Louis Armstrong, and Prince never learned music theory. Keith Haring and Basquiat, who were two of the most influential artists of the past century, never went to art school. Tom Cruise, Jim Carrey, and Johnny Depp never took a single acting class. This isn't me saying that these institutions aren't helpful, but You come to interesting solutions when you're not taught how to do something the right way. Convention is important and helps you feel comfortable when completing common tasks, but all I'm suggesting is that we examine the scripts that we often use as crutches and see what can be gained through grappling with that which we don't know.